We will talk today about the immortal Nutcracker. Hello, dear friends. What a beautiful time of the year. It's literally my beloved one because it's Christmas time and we all expect something magical from Christmas. And Christmas is dear to every heart of every Christian on this earth because we celebrate a very special occasion. But on top of that, it's a family holiday, and we can't wait to get home and to hug our loved ones and to be with those who we love. We exchange gifts, presents, and our warmth of our hearts that we really love this holiday. And this holiday is during winter time, and winter time in California is very lovely, but the winter time in Europe is with snow, lots of snow, and winter time somewhere in South America has no snow and very warm time of the year. But nevertheless, Christians of the entire world are united by this holiday. We're celebrating the birth of Christ, and we are celebrating the ultimate family holiday. And what else is uniting us around this holiday? You won't believe it, but a Russian composer, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, his immortal Nutcracker, the music to this famous ballet, unites the entire world around this time, and everyone is very proud to go to a school performance of Nutcracker or to go to a theater, to a ballet production if he or she is lucky to get to some fancy production. But the entire world knows the music that was composed by the Russian composer Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. And I'm not going to talk about him very much because, again, I think that you all know who he is. He was born in 1840 and he died in 1893 from unfortunate disease. I don't know how he managed to contract that disease. He died of cholera in St. Petersburg. That year, from cholera, died only 8 people in St. Petersburg, and one of them was Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. And you know how interesting that his mom, when he was 14, also passed away from this disease, cholera. And since Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky, he all his life believed in some kind of mysterious a series of the events that was throughout his life. When his time came to die from this disease, he almost fell a victim to his beliefs, saying, "Oh, okay, that was destined. I was destined," because he was only 53 years old. But again, he was so productive and he left us with such huge amount of works. His legacy is unbelievable because we know the Swan Lake and we know the Sleeping Beauty, all those ballets, but Nutcracker, everyone knows what the Nutcracker is, and that performance is beautiful. And of course, when you take the plot for this one, also a famous fairy tale that actually is based on the German fairy tale written by Hoffmann, but you know that fairy tale was retold, rewritten by French author, novelist Alexandre Dumas. And when one famous writer writes the story to begin with. Then the second one retells the story even in a better way, and then Tchaikovsky puts his mind and writes his plot based on those characters and on those wonderful works. And of course, nothing but a good thing comes out. What is this ballet about? Of course, it's Christmas. It's all about Christmas tree, and the centerpiece of every stage is the Christmas tree, and the kids, it's their holiday, and they have gifts, and those gifts are being taken away from them, and they abandoned. Nutcracker is laying down there, and the main character, girl, says that I'm going to take care of that Nutcracker, and the whole thing lives in the imagination of kids. And it's beautiful music. But what is more beautiful, that Tchaikovsky, actually, he was commissioned to write this ballet in 1890, and he started working on it. But then he was invited to conduct a performance at the opening of the Carnegie Hall. Can you imagine that he was the best conductor back then in the world, and the United States, when the Carnegie Hall was celebrating its grand opening in New York, they invited Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky to conduct there, to perform. And so for 25 days he was traveling. He went to the United States. Of course, back then we didn't have planes, we didn't have trains because they don't go across the ocean. We had only steamships, and he was on board of one of those liners. He was working on the liner also, and then when he arrived back to Europe, he continued working on that in Paris. And when he was in Paris, he heard a new instrument, a very interesting instrument, and that instrument was Celesta. And Celesta is an invention by a French master by the name of, it was invented in France in 1886 by the Parisian harmonium builder Auguste Mustel. And that is a wonderful instrument. It's really kind of very, very a sophisticated, I mean, very unusual instrument. And when you listen to the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, and you hear that almost crystal drops of the sounds, and that is Celesta. And that's how it started. So the instrument produces sound by striking those tuning forks instead of the metal plates. So what is Celesta? Celesta is a bell piano, is a struck ideophone operated by a keyboard. Yes, it looks like a piano. I'm going to show it later to you, but it's a little bit smaller because it has only between 3 and 5 octaves, and it plays normally 1 octave higher than the regular pitch, and that's why it produces high sweet sound. And it's with smaller keys and much smaller cabinet or a large wooden music box. So the keys connect to hammers that strike a graduated set of metal plates or bars. They are suspended, and that's why when the hammers beat on them, they touch them, that's the sound. When you have your wind chimes in your yards, in your garden, that's this, it's a similar effect how that Celeste is being invented. Sometimes they even have glass plates, and those hammers, they beat on those plates and produce that sound, and it's a very interesting instrument. So of course it was invented 4 years before Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky started composing the Nutcracker. And then he was in Paris, I told you, when he was working on that. He came back to St. Petersburg, and he said he asked his producer to quietly, in secret, acquire that instrument, because back then in Russia they had a whole pleiad or a number of gifted composers, and he was saying like, oh, Rimsky-Korsakov or Mussorgsky go in to hear that instrument and they want to steal it. So that's why it should be in secret. And he wrote special dance in his ballet, and secretly that instrument was delivered. And of course, when the premiere of that ballet was in Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg, when everyone heard that those sounds, they were like, what was that? What was that? The rumor had it like, oh, Tchaikovsky invented new instrument, especially for the Nutcracker. Everyone has to listen to it. Please go and see that ballet because, well, besides because it was directed by very famous ballet maestro Petepa, and that's why from the very beginning it was huge success. The score was a huge success. The performance of the dancers was wonderful, and the plot of the entire ballet was unbelievable. And this instrument that debuted on the St. Petersburg stage was also unbelievable. So yes, that's the story behind this ballet, the Nutcracker. It's interesting that when he was a boy, his nanny called him a glass boy. And when he was composing his Nutcracker, he fell in love with the instrument that produced glass sounds. That's a lovely story, and I think that's again when the Russian culture comes to play interesting role in the development, cultural development of the world. And if more people realize that it's the Russian music that brings us together around this time of a year. You all know that music, and that was a Russian composer, and that is a Russian composer, Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky. You know that I work where I work at the Defense Language Institute, and I have new students every year coming to me, and they're getting younger, younger, and younger. And some of them, they do know that the composer of the Nutcracker is a Russian composer. But some of them, they know the Nutcracker because they grew up listening to that music. But what is their surprise when they learn that it was a Russian composer? Wow, a Russian composer. And yes, that's a Russian composer. I wish you all Merry Christmas. I wish you all have a wonderful, peaceful, loving holidays around this time of the year. So those of you who don't celebrate Christmas, I love you very, very much. And listen to that music. It's beautiful music. Pyotr Ilyich Tchaikovsky lives throughout centuries, uniting world with his magic. And this is the Sugar Plum Fairy dance. It's beautiful. The dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy is beautiful. Listen to that and enjoy the music. And I will see you very, very soon.